Good afternoon and welcome to the Orange County Funding Corporation.
Correct. Finance Committee.
Finance Committee meeting. The time now is 4:04 p.m. Bill, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Mark Green,
Present.
Linda Muller,
Here.
Jeffrey Christ,
Here.
Dean Tambury.
Here.
Okay, we have all four of our members here, thank you. For staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, and on Zoom, Marty Barras. We also have Bill Iverson doing our live stream, our general counsel, Lena Sharetta, and our New York State monitor, Brian Sandage. And Shannon Manisi. I like to forget her every time for some reason, so, sorry, Shannon. Shannon,
I don't take it personal.
She's our CFO.
You should,
Our CFO,
Shannon.
Really?
You should take it personal.
Once is one thing, but twice is
Yes.
unacceptable.
All right,
Right.
notice of this meeting was properly provided.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. We have minutes from last time. I was not here, so I don't feel appropriate to yea or nay, but can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
Are there any corrections or questions about those? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain, so 3 and 1.
Motion carries.
Fantastic. All right, let's get right into new business, please. Shannon, can you run us down the financials?
Sure. So for the month of January, there was $31,874.33 of interest on maturing CD and $556.40 in just normal expenses for the month. So a net gain of $31,317.93 for January. And if we go to the next page, we'll go over the bank balances. So there was $217,000 in the operating account, and then 1.6 in your 3 CDs. And one of them matures next month. Just keep that in mind.
Sorry, so when she said next page, I believe she meant page 6, talking about the CDs? Okay. And it is that time already, isn't it? Are we going to meet? We will meet before.
The day before.
Day before.
Is that okay, that we talk about that
Yes.
Yeah, because look at the.
next time we meet?
Right.
Exactly, so can you just make sure that the rate, when you come, that'd be fantastic. All right, I apologize for cutting you off, Shannon.
No, that's okay, I'm done. Now it's to Kelly for the expenses.
I get to say that.
Sorry, I took your thunder.
Right back
Taking it
at
back.
you. Right back at you.
Actually, it doesn't say that on here, but that's, we'll talk
So
about it.
the expenses are,
Yeah.
RBT is the normal amount, $350, and, the management fee that's going to the IDA is $8,104, and that's for January.
Fantastic.
And then, the page behind it is the breakdown.
And those expenses are being paid in February because they don't show on January financial.
Yes, because I just got this invoice.
Yep. Makes sense. Just checking.
All right, any questions about our expenses? All right, so can we approve those, right?
Yes.
We can just approve both of those, and then we can get into your authorization.
Right.
We
Correct.
recommend for approval.
Yeah, you're recommending to the full board for approval.
Yes,
I'll
so,
make that motion.
fantastic.
Second.
Any questions or discussions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
4 yea, no opposed. All right. You wanna, well,
I can tee it up, whatever you want.
Please.
Yeah. So this is a continuation of our discussion essentially about RAMP, which is our online bill paying platform. First of all, it's going very, very well. Marty, you have to admit, right, it's been great so far? Thank you, okay. So, that's real satisfaction for me if our accounts payable person is digging it, so she is. It's been great, it allows me in one place, it comes on my computer as well as an app on my phone. I review the invoices, the actual copies of the invoices are in there, it's really, really great, and I authorize them. I had asked last month, in the chairman's absence, of course, if we could establish some guidelines as to how we want to handle those approvals, because we do have the capability of giving committee members here the app and pushing, bills to you. I was a little concerned about how cumbersome that would be and if it's fair to you as volunteers and the timing and all of that. Well, I was discussing it with Mark after our last meeting, and Mark reminded me, frankly, that not too long ago, this committee authorized me to approve payments up to, I think I had proposed $5,000, but after some discussion, it was $7,500. So Mark correctly said, his understanding was that we're basically paying all our bills, and this committee is reviewing them closely, of course, and approving them after the fact. And as you said, Mark, if there's something that's not done right, or I paid something that I shouldn't have, you guys are gonna address it with me. And if it happens again, then you have to take action, whatever the case may be. But it does allow us to pay everything.
Or if it's over 7,500.
Exactly. So if we continue with that, again, you're seeing all the detail within a month, then it allows us to pay everything that we need to pay, and also avoid late fees between what we're doing with RAMP to close that cycle on unpaying bills and authorizing me to okay them when they come in. Then I think that's gonna eliminate any issue with late payments and all of that, and it's gonna allow us to be pretty fluid with that. So thought we would revisit it and ask the committee and then ultimately the full board to re-up that authorization to allow us, especially with RAMP, to function smoothly.
I recall the discussion, I'm not sure which month it was last year, but I would like to continue that policy.
Linda, you don't have that in front of you, we just talked about it.
It was
April,
April 2024.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yep.
So it was.
so we're coming on that.
Go ahead, please.
No, I apologize. So for the April would be the authorized for the 7,500, not for the ramp. We haven't been doing.
No,
the-
No, and you don't need to bless any of that, it's just how it comes through is through that system, but yeah, it's the authorization for me to okay those bills, approve.
And maybe to mention that, I mean, the cost of this ramp program was like.
There's no cost to
That's
it.
the whole plan as well.
If we were, there's one catch, because there's always with these free programs, you upgrade and everything. If we were gonna have more complicated approvals on, say, a vendor by vendor basis, hey, for this vendor, we need 2 approval, then we had to pay extra for that, which we looked into. But with this new format, approach to it, then we don't have to worry about that. But there's no cost to it at all, whereas, Bill.com would have cost us, my estimation was gonna be a few $100s a month on top of it.
And is this an annual reauthorization that we need to do? We can't just make it permanent until we change it?
You should make it every year,
Okay,
Okay.
yep,
every year.
It's probably prudent to
Yeah.
evaluate, make sure that it's
Sure.
going the way it's going, that we're not having any snafus, so.
good point.
And just one other item there is, of course, just last month or the month prior, you approved me to pay recurring bills. Do we not need to do that again? This is now the authorization.
okay with that?
Right? Even though our rent can exceed $7,500.
Yes.
So that is the one thing. Maybe we keep it in where all recurring bills and everything else up to 7,500. That's the only item that does exceed that,
Can we
besides the management fee.
Put
for
an
those, yes.
exception on that, since it's a very well planned out expected payment.
When we signed the lease, right?
Yeah, that too.
We kind of carve that out, like 75, up to 7,500,
And
as well as rent.
As well as the rent, yeah, but then now what's the rent? Because it exceeds what?
It exceeds the 7,500 typically with CAM and,
Yeah,
was that,
And electric.
and electric, right?
Right, so what's the total when you factor in the lease?
It's different every month, but it's like maybe 7,700 or.
I mean, you might as well maybe go to
Okay.
over to include it all as opposed to carving it
Go
out.
to
I'd rather have you-
8,000
yeah,
or 85?
Yep.
That makes sense.
I think this month is 7,700.
Is it ever above 8,000, Kelly, off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I wanna say no, but I.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
then the
I mean,
one
if-
time it is,
Yes,
Well,
come
do
before
it.
your board.
we'll
for
do
approval.
it,
Sure,
but, look, the CFO part of me says, it's always good to pay our bills down the road.
Yeah.
90 days, 120 days down the road, the accounting side of me says I would much rather have our expenses paid appropriately and matched up. So, look, I've said this before, I think 2-3 years ago, we had to do what we had to do. But at this point, you know, you're the CEO, you know, this is your job.
Yeah.
And so we will monitor it every month, but I really don't think we need to approve, you know, printer paper.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's my opinion.
I agree.
So what's the number? I'm sorry.
No, and this is for the, funding corp, right? The funding corp has a
For both.
portion of it, okay.
For both. We're gonna do this in OCIDA as well. I'm looking for both, the board on both sides of the house to approve as
And
well.
also the insurance, I think last month we did the insurance, because the insurance is sometimes over $10,000 on some of their, on one of those policies.
We pay it at once, cause sometimes they're.
One in the beginning of the year, but I thought last month you approved plus insurance or something.
Yeah, we did. It was recurring bills including insurance, yeah.
Well, the one-off, we're just gonna have to, it doesn't sound like it's an every month thing.
No, it's.
It's not.
So
once
it's
a
either
year.
quarterly or an annual thing, and when it is, then, you know, frankly, we should be aware of that anyway.
Not to
so.
belabor, but the insurance is just an issue because it just seems to be with certain carriers, they send us a bill and it's due like the next day or 2 days later. That's where we have gotten got
Yes.
jammed up before.
Yeah,
But we have a provision that you can do that.
It's active right now, that's in
So I
place, yes.
wouldn't mess with that. I think the motion was just to reapprove the $7,500 limit.
Yeah, and to increase it to
To
include
cover the rent.
the rent, right.
So to do it at 8,000.
Yeah.
So that probably takes another motion to change that number.
Well,
Or to
you
make a
could-
recommendation here and then you'll do it out
Yeah.
there,
Right.
to increase
Yeah,
it.
Kind of reauthorize
So-
it, I think, a year later.
yeah, okay, sounds good.
So can we get an approval to bring this to the board to raise this to $8,000?
Take the motion first, yeah.
Also move.
Second.
Aye.
Any questions or other comments? None? Okay. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4.
There we go, motion carries. Last item on the list, and this is on OCIDA finance as well, is Shannon sent us an updated letter, just being very clear about what RVT's role is as our external CFO, what's the work that's gonna be done explicitly, and something that we've discussed, I think, for a couple of years, and she didn't add this feed to us last year, but we have talked about it, where RVT does a lot of year-end assistance, helping us prepare for our audit, doing accrual conversions, things like that. So, she is proposing an annual, year-end, one-time fee for the year of $3,000 on top of it.
I do have a question.
Sure.
So on bullet point number 2, it says check preparation on a monthly basis for the IDA and for the funding corp with RAMP. Do we still need that?
It's pretty much eliminated, frankly. We're trying to run everything through RAMP, even, I'm not sure if it's gone through yet, but even the management fee being paid from OCFC to OCIDA, we're trying to do it all through ACH. So, Shannon, last time we asked you, when it was a conversation about the checks and savings, I believe your response was that it's hard to calculate, but what about some?
Yeah, because we have still been cutting checks, so this might be the first month that it's not going to be the same as it has been in the past, so I don't know what the time difference is going to be, but I'm also now doing the OCFC and the IDA intercompany loan, or intercompany expenses, which was not part of the original proposal that we had. So any difference is probably gonna even itself out, but I won't know until I at least have a month or two to see the time that is no longer going to cutting the checks, and then we could reevaluate it. But I had prepared this well before RAMP had
Yes,
been in full force.
for sure,
so.
for sure. Yeah, I've had this since January 1st. So I don't think it's a bullet point on there, what you just described about the management fee work, right? Is it not? A bullet?
The monthly allocation schedule, it is on there now.
Okay,
It's the last
I see
bullet
it.
point.
got it, okay. All right, so maybe when we have a few months through in
Yeah,
RAMP,
after we've got a little bit of time to see what not cutting checks saves us, then we can go from there, and if we drop the fee, we drop the fee.
Okay.
It'll just be an addendum.
Okay.
Hey, Marty, since this is kind of your neck of the woods, I know, you know, you kind of gave us a nod and a smile that things are going well with that system. What is your confidence as far as, and again, a rough number of what percentage of checks do you think we're gonna be able to eliminate by using the new process?
I hate math, and math hates me.
That's not what I wanna hear from the woman paying our bills, Marty.
Well, I get to see them in real time, so I'm more of a visual person. I would have to say about 98% of the checks, we won't need 98% of the checks from RBT. The last check, I think, Kelly or Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, was we needed the $4,000 check for one of the projects, escrow account. That was recently, that was last month, I believe. So we needed to get that from Shannon ASAP to put it into the escrow bank account, and I'll tell you why very briefly. One of the projects sent us a check to put into their escrow account, and I just grabbed the check, took them to the bank, and just put it in the OCIDA checking account. So we had to take that and move it back into where it actually belonged, and we needed Shannon to cut the check like right away.
Okay, so you do think that, it sounds like almost all, unless it's an emergency situation, we should be able to streamline the process.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Shannon, can we give this a month or two and let's see if we're actually gonna make that happen? And you know, hopefully eliminate that process from you?
Sure, I would still recommend leaving it in though, because if you need checks cut, it's still gonna be done through our office unless you wanna bring that in-house.
No, understood. But if it's one check every 6 months, that's a
Right,
different
absolutely, yep.
scenario than where
But
we
I
were.
would suggest just doing an addendum to show that a change in fee as opposed to a whole new engagement letter.
Yep, okay.
Sure.
So,
And there's one other piece to this that Shannon and I just talked about, because it occurred to me this week, that I have sent her, for a couple applications we gotten for incentives, I've sent her the financials to review, so we have our CFO looking them over. So I had asked her if she wanted to amend this to include that, if there was any price change, and I can let you explain it, Shannon, but basically she said she'd rather charge us hourly because she doesn't know exactly how much time it would take depending upon the project. You wanna add to that, please, Shannon?
Yeah, sure. So Bill asked about adding this into the monthly fee and projecting what it would be for say 4 or 5 projects a year. And my take is that might not be fair to put that fee in and it not be utilized. So everybody has the hopes that you're gonna have that many projects, but what happens if you don't? Then we'd be charging you for services that we're not providing, and I don't feel comfortable doing that, first of all. But second of all, it's kind of hard to tell because each application is gonna be different in size. So if I project it to be 4 hours and it's really only an hour, I'd rather just do it time and whatever it is for each particular project, and those are one-offs, and you might be able to even build that into a chargeback for the project. I mean, that's separate from what Bill and I had talked about, but then it's not part of this monthly, really just CFO work for the bookkeeping and stuff like that. I just didn't think it was fair, but that's my personal take. If you guys feel different, of course we can work something up, but I just didn't think putting a number to something that's so unknown would be fair.
And you would charge us based upon your rates on page 2, right, where you as partner and then any other associate partner, okay.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
I like
way to
that.
approach it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair that if we see something that we're not questioning, then we'll ask her.
Right.
paying you less makes me happy, Shannon.
No offense.
I figured it would.
These rates are from last year, or these are increased over they're,
I don't know if they've increased, but
Those
these are current.
are the current rates for this fiscal year.
Thank you.
We need action on this, I would think, or recommendation.
So that's where I wasn't sure, because we did reappoint, with our reorganization meeting last month, we reappointed them as our external CFO. So this is really just agreeing on the terms of that for the rest
Oh,
of the
okay.
year.
Mhm.
Do you think we need to
I
bless
think
that?
you're okay.
You can sign it.
Yep,
Good.
All right, nothing to do?
nope, that's everything.
I can do that. Any questions that anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn? All right, then can I get a, for adjournment?
Yes.
Second.
Second, all in, discussion none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Adjourned, terrific. Billy's ready when you
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Orange County Industrial Development Agency's Finance Committee meeting. The time now is 4:29. Bill, if you'll do roll call.
Yes, Mark Green,
Present.
Jeffrey Christ.
Here.
Linda Muller,
Here,
Dean Tamburri.
Here.
All four members are here. For staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Marty Barras, and Kelly Riley. Bill Iverson handling our live stream, our general counsel Lino Sharetta, and our monitor Brian Sandage.
Fantastic. Notice of this meeting was properly provided,
Yes, sir.
so let's get to it. Again, I wasn't here last time, so I don't feel comfortable approving the minutes, but can I get a motion to approve the minutes from January 15th, please?
I'll make a motion.
Excellent. Second, any questions, corrections, or discussions about those minutes? All right, then can I get a vote, please?
Aye.
To
Aye.
approve?
Aye.
All right, 3 yeses, 1 abstain.
Okay. Motion carries.
Let's go to new business. Shannon, enthrall us.
Okay, so for January for the IDA, there was a CD that matured that got, that earned $264,000 of interest. Out of the normal monthly expenses, things that just are a little above or different than what is expected from the budget would be your insurance. We had 2 policies that renewed, so your premiums are hitting there, and that's the $1,088. Professional fees for $325 is a public hearing expense, and that's not every month, so I just figured I'd point that out. And then down under memberships and events, that 5457, 5,000 of that is for the Public Policy Institute, and the remainder was for the monthly chamber expense.
I'll just remind you, that's that
All
economic
together.
blueprint that we supported the study.
Oh, yeah,
Thanks.
all right, so that was
The $5,000 towards that economic blueprint,
the blueprint, okay.
the
that we
report
discussed.
that's gonna be shared with legislators and such about ways to make New York more competitive.
Yeah, and what was the public hearing, 325?
Public hearing is for our UTEP, so it was a stenographer for that.
Yep, okay, thank you.
And as discussed in OCFC, the monthly rent was $85.93 due to the increase based on the lease agreement. So total expenses for the month of January were $60,666.65, and showing a net operating income of $203,677.26. Any questions on that?
Anything jump out?
Okay.
Thank you for those CDs, provide us nice revenue.
Sorry, what was that, Bill?
I've said, we're thankful for the CDs, producing some nice revenue this
Yeah.
year, so it's been helped this past year.
Yeah. So if we go to the next page, it's the bank balances. So there was $742,000 in the operating account, $39,000 in the escrow account, and just shy of 8.6 in the CDs. Again, one is maturing next month. So a total of $9.3 million in cash and CDs.
All right, and again, we'll wait until our next meeting to discuss the CDs. I think we turn that over now to, right, Kelly, is this you? Thank you.
I didn't want to take it away from you, Mark.
Oh, you're funny.
So, all of the expenses are pretty much the same for reoccurring. I wanted to bring to your attention, the First Columbia, there was a January rate increase of $823.25. That's why it shows a little bit over $8,000. And, we just spoke about it, but Fran Roth, who's the stenographer for the public hearing for the UTEP. The Gannett, New York, that's, our legal notices that we put into the newspaper. I believe this one is for the RFP for the Brownfield grant. Harris Beach is, Julie Marshall helping us with the Paris reporting and the training. The Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress was a roundtable. The KR cleaning is 2 months worth, it was January and February. in what Marty was talking about earlier for the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, the 4,000, that was the escrow amount of money that we pulled out of the account to put into the escrow account because it was put into the IDA checking account in error. And the Martin Ware Group is the IT service that we've been getting from Micah.
It's a new firm that we hired a couple months ago, been doing, security review and, a few other things that we needed.
And Xerox and Zoltis is just a reoccurring.
Copier and phones.
So real quick, so the rent increased?
Yes.
This is what we're saying?
Yeah, with our new lease and, us taking over additional space. We weren't paying for this last year.
Right, yeah, we decided we were gonna pay for this, and then it kinda ends over there, right?
Correct, exactly. And we do, just by the way, I could mention this to the board as well, we have samples on carpet they've dropped off for us. It's really just up to us to decide what we want, and then they're gonna move forward with that. So the landlord has been diligent about responding to that.
Fantastic. Any questions so far? Okay, and the credit card,
Well, the two statements are behind that. The one for the M&T and one for Vietnam, which is the Orange County Trust.
Kelly, I didn't look, but do you think the GoDaddy has already gone down? Do you have any idea? Just because we are eliminating some of that, it's what the IT guy is going through, making sure, because we had email services kind of through a third party, through GoDaddy and Microsoft, so we're kind of bypassing some of the middleman and saving some expenses there. I don't know if that's it
I mean,
yet.
I don't know, I mean, we do only have a couple of the GoDaddy amounts, so
Looks less to me, but,
it does look
yeah,
less, but
okay.
I don't know that part.
More to come on that, because we are still auditing all that internally.
all right. Any questions about any of that?
Not for me.
Linda, you look very pensive.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, then we can, move on from that. Motion to approve this with the board,
Exactly.
recommend to the board.
Second.
Any further discussions? In favor?
Aye.
4 ayes, no opposed. And let's talk about invoice payments again,
Yes,
because I enjoyed it the first time.
yes, good one. On it back.
You take it.
So same as we discussed in OCIDA, looking for your approval and ultimately the board, full board's authorization for me to okay payments up to $7,500 that come in. Anything above that, did we change the amount? Did we do 8?
You said eight.
Recommended to 8.
Up to $8,000 in order to cover rent and expenses like that.
Okay, let me ask you this question, I'm gonna cut you off, Bill, because I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing 77.70. And then I'm seeing 823.25.
Yeah.
So is our new rent going to be, 8,500?
Right, I was thinking
I
that.
was thinking the same thing when I saw that too. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. Are we keeping, for the insurance purpose as well, as we talked about in the last meeting, are we keeping that recurring, the authorization for you to pay all recurring bills, which includes rent and insurance? So that kind of covers that piece?
I wasn't here last time, so.
I think you're
I mean,
paying all
this-
bills, not just
10 minutes ago.
recurring bill.
The 7,500 or 8,000 is all.
Yeah, I would recommend, like, what I would do, I mean, this is akin to, like, for example, other agencies, communities, like certain staff members, like, for example, like, I serve as town council and village council in other locations, they authorize me to settle up to certain level of amounts without going to the board, right? So, that number could be, in some place, it used to be like 7,000, then increased to 10,000. So what I would recommend, whatever number you think would cover it, that you can do on your own without requiring board approval. Yes, the one-offs that you're gonna get, you're gonna have to come back here and get, you need a vote. You can't get around it. You can't spend money without that vote. But you can at least authorize at a number where he doesn't have to keep going back and coming into the situation. So I would definitely, recommend maybe increasing that amount to something that's closer to what your monthly expenses are. So if you know that rent is gonna be increased to 8 and change, and give yourself a little bit of a buffer for both OFC and IDA. Understanding that there'll be certain one-offs that the board's gonna have to approve anyway, but at least that you're not worrying about getting before the board, special meetings, you can just take care of it on your own, but as long as the board authorizes that increase.
9,000?
Well, let me ask you, so does that come up with an issue regarding this insurance that, because the bill comes in, it has to be paid right away type of thing? I mean, that's the only other issue I see, so I don't know how you resolve that.
And just the ones that exceed $9,000 or $10,000, which is just,
Yeah, I mean,
most of them are.
If it can't wait for a meeting, I don't know what the procedure would be, if that's what you're telling me.
Can we be proactive when we know it's about due a month before? See if we can find out the number and pre-approve it?
The insurance, you should get your notices, for other, agencies, you get your notices ahead of time, I just got my own insurance bill, it's 30 days out,
Yeah.
maybe more. So
You would think, but I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, they do get it
They're
2 weeks.
creeping it, they're
Yeah.
creeping it now, I don't know what.
But if
the
they're creeping
goal is
it, then
here.
they should wait, obviously, in terms of payment, you gotta, something like that, you need authorization if it's a bigger nut than 8 or 9, 10 grand. So, my point is, even calling our carrier, whoever it is, saying, listen, we need bills in a certain timely fashion, and have them, so that, you're an agency, you need to vote on these expenditures, so they should understand that if they're insuring, they should get it.
I would suggest this, we go to 9,000, and when it comes, the next time you get insurance, and if it's above 9,000, then I would ask you to call them up and tell them, we need
We have a
45
process.
days. We have a process, I can't just write checks.
Right.
And push back on them and, try to, understand that, I feel your pain, because in my personal life, I see this as well.
Right.
Right, life insurance, I almost feel like they're trying to do it on purpose to screw me. Oh no, you missed your payment, you've been paying 30 years, but, you were 3 days late. So, can I ask you to do that?
Sure, I recall that we broached it with our local insurance agent, and they've kind of acted a little helpless, like this, it is what it is type of thing, but we could push that and then see if there's some dialogue with the carrier,
Well, then, let me
to
ask
seek
you
that.
this question.
Yeah.
Are we married to this agent?
Yeah,
And if they can't, be
I do.
reasonable that
Yeah.
we're a business,
yeah.
and that we can't do things in 2 weeks, then, say, hey, look, then we're gonna shop this around.
Right,
And find somebody that we're gonna start the relationship knowing that we need 45 days to pay this particular bill.
we can definitely,
Because it's above our threshold, I need approval.
I'll have those conversations.
It makes sense to go out as well every so often.
Every so often.
Sure, it's been a while.
That's not a bad idea too. That's probably a good fiduciary move.
Okay, understood, we'll do that.
So, through all of this, I do want the rent covered though. I just,
That's monthly.
Yeah.
we know what it is.
Yeah.
So I would say the threshold is $9,000. Are we?
Motion.
Second. Aye.
Action,
Are you done,
it's an
Rick?
action-oriented committee.
Any further discussion? All in favor of $9,000?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Sold.
Tough crowd today.
And last item is RBT's proposal, we have discussed it, I don't know if there's any further, and we'll revisit the check cutting piece, but otherwise, these are our current rates from RBT.
Revisit check cutting and, I'm sorry, please.
Do they review any projects for us, finances?
They
Well,
do,
then-
that was the additional piece that Shannon's saying that she doesn't think should be
Yeah.
included in this proposal of hourly.
Hourly rate.
So
Yeah,
based upon.
So that's
whatever
gonna be
it
the
is.
same here is my question,
What's
for
gonna be,
IDA.
The rates are on this.
the rates are, yes.
Yes.
Is that what you're
But
saying?
the project review,
So the project review will be
the
on an
hour.
hourly basis
Yeah,
based upon
but
this page 2.
that's part of the IDA needs too, compared
Yes.
to the OCFC.
absolutely.
Okay, yep,
Primarily, I would say.
yeah. I wasn't totally sure if we covered that somehow, otherwise in the IDA, but.
Mm.
And Shannon, I joked before, but if we're going to the hourly rate, I truly hope you make more money than doing a flat rate, because that means we are closing business.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that would make me happy. Any other items, any other questions that anyone has, any proposals, nothing?
You're talking on today's agenda.
Correct.
I would just like to ask a question on Paris. Are we on schedule to meet the, I think it's the March 31st deadline?
We are. I will ask Kelly and Marty to chime in, not to put them on the spot, but they're the ones that are in the trenches with this, working closely with Julie. Marty sent out her long list of compliance letters and confirmation letters for that's how we collect most of that information. Marty, you wanna give a quick status update on how that's going?
Sure, Bill, of the 5 that I sent you that still had not, submitted their, confirmations for
Mhm.
2024, right now we're at 3 of them. 2 of them have submitted late, very apologetically, which happens every year. I don't know how we're gonna get around that.
Yep.
But everything looks, we've had to review these submissions with more of a fine tooth comb, because we don't know what we don't know, and Anshin has, given us a lot of recommendations that are really helpful, so that I'm just not collecting information and throwing it out into the, Dropbox and hoping for the best, or actually going over the information that we're getting, pushing back if they're missing something, even if they didn't, indicate not applicable where necessary. But we're doing well. I think that right now it's up to Julie now to put that stuff into Paris.
Yeah, I'm looking at the naughty list now, as you said, I 4 on this list, and at least 2 of them I think are usual suspects for being stragglers with this, so.
Yeah.
And to Marty's point, because of Anshin's input, we have added to that confirmation letter, we're asking for more documentation of other things, as we should, based upon really what the expectations are. So I do think that's adding to the complexity of what they have to respond with, so I think it's a factor.
So Marty, everyone's looking at you. Kelly, I certainly don't want to exclude you. I don't know who's kind of running the ball.
They're both equally involved, but Marty puts together the confirmation letters and
So-
receives those.
When do those letters go out, Marty?
Up until the 2024 confirmations, I was sending them out in late December. These went out a little later, because we were going back and forth with the monitor, on how to be more specific, or how to request more specific information. So once the letter was reviewed and signed off on, using Anshin's, recommendations, we waited until we got the letter exactly the way we needed to get it, so it went out a little later this time. And in fairness, most people don't get their NYS 45 until the 31st of January, so we made the 7th of February the cutoff date. Mostly everybody submitted February the 7th, then February the 14th. And then the last 2 that I expected, I got this week, and then we just have the 2 that are usually outstanding.
All right. So from what I'm hearing, there's not really a bottleneck on our end. I mean, like, we can only send letters out so early if people don't get their information from New York State until January 31st. I mean, we can send stuff out in October, November, it's not gonna make a difference. So, all right, so I just wanted to see if there's something that we could have been more efficient at.
And what we did, so February 7th is that deadline, but we did last year, you may recall, the board authorized or approved us being able to levy a fine if they don't meet for the deadline. And that's a little later, 28th of February, something like that. So I do have my naughty list, and it comes to me to call on people and make, as the CEO saying, hey, we haven't received this. So But then if they don't, follow up, then I threaten that fee, not to mention possible recapture of their benefits, but we hope to not go there. Marty?
The fee is actually threatened in my reminder letter.
Right, that's right.
And that goes out late January, so that's when they start to kind of get it together and, you know, send them, and the deluge begins, but the bottleneck, is typically not on our side.
One related question, do I remember the board needing to approve that final report before
Yes.
it's sent in?
Absolutely.
And our meeting date, will that be a feasible date for the approval, or
I doubt it.
I recall having to do something special?
So you have to look at the financial audits that they're working on right now. And the audit committee meeting will be March 5th, I think, if I'm not
Right,
mistaken.
audit committee, true.
And then hopefully they're gonna have a draft that day for you guys to review, and then if any changes need to be made, then they'll come back on the 19th, or I think it's March 19th.
Yes.
The board meeting, and hopefully you'll approve the financial committee, or the financial audit, because we need the financial audit in order to put it into Paris.
And then do we still have to approve the final Paris separately?
Yes. You
And
approve
I
that
mean-
every year. Yes,
So that's not gonna happen on the 19th.
which is.
Probably not, because unless the audit committee approves the financial audit on the 5th.
Okay.
But then I think it has to go to the whole board anyway, right?
It does.
For the financial,
Let's check with Julie on timing.
yeah.
The report is usually prepared much longer than a few days ahead of the
Yeah,
deadline.
yeah.
So this is about 11 days, I think, from the submission date from our board meeting. But let's talk to
Okay,
her about
thank
the
you.
timing of that.
That's helpful.
Great question.
I mean, she's all along since probably early December, we've been feeding her information for that
Right.
Paris reporting. So she's been inputting stuff into Paris since then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's, again, if we're waiting until February 20th,
Yeah.
February 28th, and now we have to turn around and create this all in less than a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it require signatures from board members, right?
I don't think so,
No,
just.
Bill will
Okay,
have to
so it's just another
certify.
timing thing, depends on what to sign, right, for what, that's all.
Let us check on that timing and report back to you on that.
Yeah,
Between the meetings.
let me ask you a question. I mean, maybe it makes sense to potentially move that Wednesday the 5th to a little bit closer to the, later in the month, closer to the full board. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to think of how we can.
The auditors, or the finance auditors would be happy with that,
Right.
because they've got a tight schedule.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm listening to this and it's like, this is almost impossible. All right, let's,
I think the timing is tighter this year, given that.
please.
So the financial statement has to have all the project data in the back of the financial statement as a supplemental schedule anyway. So most of this stuff should be done by the time that they come to you with the draft.
Okay,
So I think timing wise, if they have it ready for the 5th, then you're in good shape, because everything is probably set at that point.
okay, if that's what you think.
And I've reached out to Melissa, who's the lead of this finance audit, and I told her our dates, and she's well aware of them.
Okay, well, look, you did it great last year. I'm just asking questions, ask questions. You guys run with this and you'll make it happen, I'm sure. So whatever you need from us, you let us know, okay?
Very good.
All right. Any other questions, sir?
No.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? Then can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?